Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3. 1 2 3 4. I'll wait until I see comments, and if comments are flooding in, and then we'll fucking get started here. Sometimes it takes a minute. Tism, tism. Then we got comments or what? Am I fucking unlocked yet? Okay, we're good. Okay, they're all flowing in. Okay, here we go. So, I was talking with a guy, and he thinks it'd be a good idea for me to let you guys know, kind of like how this shit works in terms of money moving around. Like, why is there so much apparent, like, you know, quote, like slush fund money moving around, and like how it goes into destabilizing the United States. So essentially you have a nonprofit, the nonprofit sector, right, which is like what the general public knows as charity, right? Charity isn't, I mean, it can be charity if you operate it that way, but in terms of economics, the like what you call charities is the nonprofit sector, and it's not really a charity. It is just like an opposite end of a spectrum of economics that gets covered by the Treasury Department. In a sense, like in the aggregate, that's like what's going on. What happens is that the IRC, which means like Internal Revenue Code, right? The IRC, it interprets the congressional law as that if you know, they have a selection process for approving a nonprofit based off it being a like a public good, and it's just like check boxes. And if you pass that in making a nonprofit, and your format is good to go for a nonprofit, then they deem it to be a public good that the government would otherwise have to enlarge itself and like hemorrhage money into providing, like especially things that are inefficient. And then they say, okay, because of that, because it's a public good and the public wants it, then like we can save money by just like covering it in the negative economics through tax liability. And that's all covered down through the Treasury Department and through the IRS, right? Like via the IRS. So to the like the new guy, this appears like what you'll find is that if you try to make a nonprofit, like if you want to make a charity and you try to make a nonprofit, and you go in there with the traditional notion of charity, you're actually going to have a really hard time, because you're going to like in terms of making the lifeblood model work and perpetuate. And a lot of that has to do with that the nonprofit sector, it doesn't really have much to do with charity. It's more like it's very similar but opposite of the private sector. And this was done on purpose. The nonprofit sector is I believe technically larger than the for-profit sector in terms of like the amount of money that's moving around in it. The reason that it was designed like that is because that is the like an additional rail, an additional avenue of destabilization to introduce in the United States, and it got folded into the IRC when the income tax law came into effect in the beginning of the 20th century, which is written by Rothschild bankers, if you didn't know that. Like principally Warburg is probably like the brainchild of like the fucking algebra that is the IRC, and getting in. And so like that's just kind of the background, right? Now what I wanted to tell you is you know, it occurred to this gentleman that I was speaking to that it would be extremely helpful to let the general public understand this, and to and it's my fault because I kind of like overlook shit, because I assume that like, you know, you make the error of thinking that like everybody, you know, perceives what you perceive or whatever, and they just don't care. And the fact is that it is kind of complicated in a way, but it would probably be extremely beneficial, and we would multiply the fucking pressure and give a way to fight back non-violently using our brains if the general public understood how to fucking get a handle and research the shit that's going on. So the way that the shit works is that, like, once you get a nonprofit, because it's a fucking public good, it is subject to public inspection at any time. That's like one of the like congressional caveats of it. Like, in order to get all that fucking funny money, you've got to make your shit publicly inspectable, because that fucking IRS isn't going to do it because there's so many and the IRS is very small. And so, like, any nonprofit or foundation, pretty much for the most part, there are a couple of exceptions. Some retail finance is actually nonprofit, believe it or not, which is like a good way to hide, right? And they have their own like categories and shit, and they're a little less accessible. But in terms of general, like 501c 3s, C4s, like all that shit, a vast majority of them are going to be 501c3s. That's like 90% of your nonprofits are 501c3s, which is very generic. It's like a catch-all. All of them have to turn in, they have to file with the IRS at a minimum interval of like every 3 years. So you can have like one turn in, and then 2 years they like delay turning them in, and then they got to turn it in. What that means is that, and what the form is called is a Form 990, Form 990, okay? Every fucking nonprofit has to fucking file this. Not only do they have to file it, they have to make it publicly available for inspection. So if you go to a nonprofit, you can demand that they produce their Form 990. And they have to comply. The way that nonprofits are used to destroy the United States is you can put in a 501c3 under a broad, vague initiative that is like human rights or something. And then you can just basically make a network that gets huge fucking sums of money dumped into it to bring over illegal immigrants and to bring them in the United States. And you can do it with education. This is also the way they subverted education through foundations and grants. A really good thing to reference on this, like just a fucking like anecdotal like reference material is this book, Philanthropy and Cultural Imperialism, written by Robert F. Arnault. And this is going to be from like the 80s. This is written in like the 80s. And this is actually, the guy who writes this is an Indiana State professor. And this is pretty disciplined writing, but it's also somewhat accessible. Like, it's not totally fucking confusing. And it gives a time capsule of like what was going on in the 80s when this shit was going on, when you first had like the shape of things to come for the 90s and 2000s, like just fucking like massive fucking expansion of corporations. Now, he's very careful not to paint judgment on the thing. You can tell between the lines that he is kind of like viewing it as like, you know, like general corporate entities that are like driven by profit, and that's like their metric, and so they just like swallow everything in their way, and that is like the moral conundrum, and that's kind of like how he analyzes it. And that's probably due to like the you know, whatever you want to call it, the fucking indoctrination of education. Education got indoctrinated in the 50s. So like after World War II, they started fucking stealing education. There have been congressional investigations, most notably the Cox Commission and the Reese Commission in the 1950s. You know, these are like committees on anti-American activities in schools, funded through foundations, and like, you know, we're talking like large foundations. We're talking like Ford Carnegie Foundation. We're talking like Rockefeller Foundation, like shit like that. And all those guys are going to be in here too, because they're doing a lot of shit. They're doing a lot of like in the 80s they started doing like, you know, like fucking city seeding, where they're like seeding the fucking municipalities to get them on the fucking IV drip of the easy money, right? So they can fucking like gain influence and just take the motherfuckers over, like all the major cities. That's how you get like all the major cities turn Marxist, okay? Now that's just kind of like, that's only a capsule in the 80s, but it gives you a broad overview of like that time period and how this guy like researched how the shit worked. So it's a very good reference book that you should look up if it's a lot of pages, you know, and there's a shitload of information there. You can read through just like a section of it and you'll like start to see the fucking flavor here. The nonprofit sector is malfeasant. It is not actually designed to be a charitable thing. Like individuals and people do charity, and the nonprofit sector is designed to allow that within the framework of like IRS compliance through congressional mandate. But the actual overwhelming purpose of the nonprofit sector is to allow corporations that are for-profit corporations. The IRC is designed to allow them to purge their tax liability so that their taxes don't go like back to the government, and they purge them, and they also get kickbacks in many ways. And this would be like, if you remember when like Apple got squeezed a while back, like several years ago. They went in for like a IRS compliance review, like a congressional IRS compliance review, and they didn't really talk about much except for like afterwards, all the senators were like scratching their heads and like, wow, this is like really impressive. Like, can I take some notes on like how you're not paying taxes and shit? Which is fine. You shouldn't pay, like, we shouldn't have any fucking taxes anyway, because it's just all of your taxes are just going to just destroying your fucking country anyway. So you actually like morally, if you have a fucking idea of what's going on, and you have some kind of like if you're a kind of guy that is like, you know, you need to pay your taxes because it's like your fair share, and like I do my part, like your fucking money is going directly into fucking destroying the United States. So you might want to like look into that before you make judgment on other people when they don't want to pay taxes, because this is not fucking anything new either. It's just so exacerbated now that it's readily, you know, observable in society. I mean, look at what the fuck is going on. Like, this is batshit what is going on right now. If you didn't know, like, if you think everything going on right now is just like, you know, like a month and then it's gonna go away, like you're gonna have a little surprise here, because it's not gonna fucking stop. But the what is going on is that the large corporations are interfaced with nonprofits that they design themselves or in their network, nonprofits that already exist, and they're purging their tax liability and they're putting it into a conglomerate of 501c3s that are specifically set up to destabilize the United States. And this can be seen from so for like a direct example, because people that are watching this are going to like, you know, be like, I need the proofs. So the fucking like, for example, Democracy Partners, which I've used several times as an example, Democracy Partners is a nonprofit that's designed around like inequality and like human justice or something. It's something fucking vague. They've got a motherfucking Form 990, and you can look it up. Democracy Partners had like basically social engineering agents that are like, you know, kind of like post-academics that they employ, that had Twitter feeds, you know, like in 2016. The way that Democracy Partners kind of came on the radar was from Project Veritas doing a fucking like their very first little fucking expose where they like expose fucking Democracy Partners, and they talk about how they're disrupting Trump rallies. Well, you know, Trump's fucking in on this shit, and so that's like an op. And they also forgot to mention that Democracy Partners was at every fucking Black Lives Matter protest, from Eric Garner to fucking like Ferguson. They were there the entire time. They were there, and their agents like Michael Black were so dumb that they were taking like phone images of all the fucking shit going on. So like when the National Guard's rolling into Ferguson, they're like, National Guard's here now, and they're like typing it and fucking tweeting it out. They probably have that shit locked down now, but I fucking saw the shit when it was happening. So Democracy Partners is a nonprofit. They do have a fucking Form 90 that they must fucking file. The CEO of that is Robert Creamer. Robert Creamer is a convicted felon for fraud. Robert Creamer's wife is the fucking legislator from Illinois, 9th District. Her name is Jan Schakowsky. So she's like sitting, as far as I know, she's still fucking currently sitting in Illinois state government. And so to wrap your head around this, like what I am saying is that like you have elements within the US government that are fucking passing legislation, and their family members are running fucking like social engineering operations to destabilize cities, and they have resulted in people like getting killed over this shit. Like you get what I'm saying? Now the people that are involved in the fucking riots and shit, they don't understand what's going on. But there's a lot of money moved to these things, and they know how, they fucking study this shit all the time, and they know how to fucking get you up there and fucking burn a car or a building. Like they've been doing this shit for a while. It didn't fucking start in the United States either. We're just focused in this examination on the United States. Okay. So fucking Democracy Partners is just like one example. The nonprofit sector is fucking gigantic, and the only saving grace is that they mandatorily must produce a fucking Form 990. The Form 990 also has other forms that they're mandatorily required to produce if requested, but the main one is the Form 990, and it's the most juicy motherfucker out of all this, because the Form 990 is going to have anyone that's receiving payouts from the fucking entity, from the nonprofit, whoever they're paying, like on their staff or as an advisor or fucking like anybody that gets money, has to be on the fucking Form 990. If they don't put it on there, it's illegal. It's also going to include all of their fucking funding sources. Now there are certain caveats where like a private donor can be private, depending on the type of entity. But like a majority of your like giant funding, like tens of millions of dollars of donations from like corporations and shit, is going to be listed on the Form 990 about 2/3 of the way down. And the bigger and like badder the nonprofit is, the more pages and attachments their Form 990 would be. They can also, if they're smart, they can opt to like separate the fucking contributions list from the Form 990 so it's on a separate form. And you can still request that too. It has a different name. It's like a schedule attachment that you have to add to it, but you can get that too. And they mandatorily have to produce it. So what I'm saying is that, for example, like the way that you had, like I've already said this before, but like, it's particularly like right wing, paradigm people that are like consider themselves right wing are super fucking concerned with the illegal immigration, right? With the South Americans coming in the United States and like the crime involved and stuff, like associated with that, and the general like chaos and destabilization that stems from that. Now, one little fucking caveat that I want to add in there is that the Chinese have been brought over way more than the fucking South Americans, and so that's a concern. You should fucking look into that. The Chinese were like hidden by the media, and they never talked about it because they're strategically placing fucking Chinese to the United States for the fucking upcoming war. They're putting them in education, and they're putting them in like IP, like fucking scientific and industrial IP positions, so that they can fucking access sensitive information and shit. And they're setting them up for like taking the blame for like all this destabilization that's occurring right now. That's probably where it's going to go. That's the plan, is to like put it on China. And another thing that I'll add before I continue on is that you guys need to be really concerned about the bulk power component EO that came out at the beginning of May, because right now you have a bunch of spooks being combined with the DOE to make a task force to fucking regulate and control and switch out all the parts for every national bulk power system in the United States. And it's under the guise of making them less vulnerable. Well, all the components that they're changing out are fucking components that they picked in the first place. And so it's extremely likely that the actual reason that they're fucking switching out components is to make the fucking systems vulnerable to remote attack that you can't trace. Okay? So like they're switching out components so that they can fucking shut down your power remotely and make it look like it's a Chinese attack. And that's what's going on. It has to be. So if you're in the fucking NEA or like anything like that, anybody that's like privy to this EO, it would be very helpful if we could know the list of like components, like approved components and approved vendors, so that we can fucking like look into this and see where the fucking kill shot is, because it can't be good. Like, it's a fucking nefarious thing for sure. It's not really about like everything that they say about vulnerability and trying to make us less vulnerable is like the opposite of what's going on. Like, they're making us fucking vulnerable, and they're setting up the narrative for what they're going to blame it on, which is going to be China, right? Okay, that being said, back to the fucking immigration, right? I just wanted to add that in there because people don't know that. So, the South American immigrants that got pushed in the United States, this would be like caravans and all that shit that the media covered, they're being moved in by NGOs. So like, these people are not just like waking up in the morning and they're just like, fuck, I'm just gonna go over here. They have to like, there are stateside NGOs that are like positioned in the United States to receive them, and then there are other American NGOs that go overseas and have fucking affiliate offices in South American countries that spend their time going around and telling people like, hey, we got the fucking like, we got the railroad set up. Like, you come up here, this is where you get money. Like, they're like setting up the entire fucking train for the immigrants to come into the United States. All of these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, non-profits, are fucking public and have to fucking file Form 990s. You can go and look up the fucking Form 990s and you can see the entire staff with their legal names on it, and you can see how much they're getting paid, and you can see who they are, and you can see which corporations are fucking providing the funding. So you can paint a map of the relationship between the corporate corruption and the fucking societal destabilization that's taking place through the records of the Form 990s. There are a fucking lot of them, but you can do it. Now, right away, I'm going to tell you that when you start I'm going to take the fucking immigration NGOs, for example. If you go to GuideStar or something like that, now, a lot of these sites in the past year have locked off, the sites that do like grading on nonprofits. They act like the portals of like viewing their documents and like rating them and shit. If you fucking go to like GuideStar or something and don't make an account, nowadays they're like locking the Form 990 so that you can't see them. You can either Google, you can look for once you determine what the NGO's name is. Or I'll tell you this way. This is like a good way to do it. You can go to one of these NGO crawler sites like GuideStar, and you can just search by topic like immigration, and then it's just going to give you a list of like 100 fucking nonprofits that particularly deal with immigration and bringing immigrants in the United States. From that, you will be able to see what's called their EIN, which is like an entity tax number. The EIN, it's going to be like 82 dash. I don't know, like 10 digits or something like that, 8 digits afterwards. It's gonna have a dash in there. That's the EIN. The EIN is the like serial number of the nonprofit entity. You take that, you fucking do a search, and you say this entity or the legal name of the nonprofit, Form 990, and then you're going to get a PDF of it is going to pull up somewhere because they get circulated a lot. If one doesn't pull up, that means that they haven't fucking filed it, like they haven't produced one. And if you need to see one like that, then you fucking contact them in a professional and formal way, and you say like, I am fucking formally requesting public inspection of your Form 990, and they have to produce it. And if they don't, then you fucking let the IRS know, and then you follow up with the IRS to make sure that they're fucking getting in their ass to produce it, and they'll fucking produce it for you. When you get into the Form 990, you go about, like, the first section is going to be like the initial organization documents of like what the entity is. Then that's gonna be like the first page, and then it's gonna have their the person who prepared the document. Then you're gonna scroll down, and then you're gonna see on like the second and third page, you're going to see like you're gonna start seeing like their programs and how much money they put into their programs that they have to declare, and then you're gonna see staff underneath that, and it's gonna list everybody that gets compensation and how much they make, and what their fucking like legal position is in the company to justify compensation. I'm going to tell you right now that when you go look at these immigration NGOs, it is going to be nothing but Jewish names, okay? Like, pretty much 100%. Like, you're going to have one token black guy or one token, like, somebody who's not a Jewish name, And other than that, it's going to be all Jewish people. I'm not saying that of some kind of aspect of racism. I'm saying that because it's just fucking plainly fucking clear. And if you have a problem with that, you can fucking go look at some Form 990s and you can tell me what you find. You know? I already know what you're going to find because I've looked at fucking thousands of them. I've been looking at these motherfuckers for like fucking 5 years. Like, I know exactly what the fuck are in Form 990s. So if you want to bullshit me or like put some little fucking snarky comment in here, go right ahead because it's just going to expose exactly who the fuck you are. Truth is a fucking shield. Now, it's not limited to immigration NGOs. It is pretty much every fucking professional NGO that fucking moves a lot of money. And this is because this is the inverse economic model to partner with like the corporate takeover of the United States. But for a normal person that feels like they can't do anything, this is a great way for you to like really dig into the shit and see what's going on. And if you're fucking like, if you're just like a fucking like psycho computer guy, I'm sure that you could like, with this information, you can fucking pull up and you can make an entire map of the fucking relationship between the for-profit sector and non-profit sector by analyzing the fucking Form 990s. Another example of this shit would be like Antifa, right? So everybody knows that like about 2 years ago, people started associating the word George Soros with Antifa. Like George Soros funds Antifa. What that's from is from a very specific web article that was published where they did like half-hearted investigation into like who is funding Antifa. The way that they did that was by associating one of the early Antifa groups that was a little bit more like formal than they like to do now, because now they like to really fucking hide it. Like the reason that you can't find Antifa is because if you found them, you'd find a bunch of fucking Jewish corporations, and nobody fucking wants that. And that's why fucking Antifa, like among themselves, think of themselves like we have to be super secret, because they don't want anybody to know what kind of fucking NGO is passing money to a group that's then passing it to like Antifa. So they're putting as many steps in between it as possible. But in this little fucking like surface level investigation of Antifa from years back, when Antifa first got on the radar, the guy researched a nonprofit that's known as Alliance for Global Justice. Alliance for Global Justice is a catch-all 501c3 that gives to like justice causes for justice, which include unincorporated groups like Antifa. So they're just like paying thugs, right? The shit disturbers. So the fucking Alliance for Global Justice, in their Form 990, it says exactly who they are. Surprise, surprise, Alliance for Global Justice is all Jewish people. Like, you know, I know it's like incredibly fucking surprising, but if you go down to Alliance for Global Justice's like their fucking contributions page, and that's just a fact. That's just what's there. You go fucking look up AFG's 990, and you can tell me if that's not accurate. And if it is accurate, then it's not fucking anti-Semitic. It's just fucking truth. If you go down to the 2/3 down AFG's Form 990, you're going to find all of their fucking contributors, which include Tides Foundation and Open Societies Foundation, depending on the year that you look at. They've got several 990s over different years, and the NGOs will switch up so they don't look like they're a fucking like year after year annual contributor. So just like a one-time thing. That way they have like plausible deniability. George Soros owns Tides and Open Societies Foundation. And that is the way that Antifa got associated with the name of George Soros. The guy that did that investigation wasn't exactly honest, because you also had a bunch of fucking like wealthy Jewish individuals making huge contributions to fucking AFG, and you had companies like Patagonia is a fucking like multi-year contributor to fucking AFG that funds Antifa. So like Patagonia is funding Antifa. That should be like a little bit more high profile than George Soros, because most people don't have any fucking thing to do with George Soros, but a lot of fucking ritzy people buy fucking Patagonia. Well, if you buy Patagonia, you're fucking buying Antifa. That is what's going on. And it doesn't start with Patagonia. It's basically like every company that has been corrupted, you know? Like that is what we're dealing with here. And it is fucking huge. This is not like some like Like, with this information, you can fucking draw the network. But nobody is going to come to fucking help you out. Like, nobody's going to prosecute this shit. Or the last time that this shit got, like, taken on by Congress was in the 1950s during the Reese and Cox Commission when they investigated foundations. After that, you had the fucking Red Scare period, which they've labeled as McCarthyism. And now it's like McCarthyism is viewed as a like a stain on American history, like they were oppressive against people because of their fucking, like, you know, communist fucking political leanings. That is a fucking world government tactic. And what was really going on in the Red Scare was that, like, they were basically using communism, the principal operators in communism from the USSR and from fucking China, like the people that set up fucking China to become communists, and the people that set up the USSR to become communists, are like 90% Jewish foreigners that are not from there. And they came there and fucking, like, moved there and fucking set up shop. Okay? That, or they were in diaspora Jewry and they lived in fucking Russia and then they fucking created communism. Okay? The reason that the Red Scare is, like, so fucking, like, heavily held down by the thumb of media as being, like, you know, don't talk about it, it was just a terrible time and it was so racist. What they're doing is the media is covering down and academia is covering down and painting a picture that didn't really exist. And the reason why is because when Paul McCartney and the other what the fuck is it? McCarthy? Paul, not Paul. When fucking McCarthy was doing the fucking Red Scare, Joseph McCarthy, thank you. I was thinking of, I've been listening to Temporary Secretary, which is like a 1980s single from Paul McCartney. And that's why I fucking got fucking confused there. So what he was doing was he didn't think, Joe fucking knew that the communists in the United States were, like, overwhelmingly beyond any reasonable doubt, beyond any conceivable deniability, were Jewish. And so he didn't think the American public was ready to hear that. And then so he used their co-opted like screen, which is fucking communism, which is like the infiltration tactic to, like, fucking destabilize the United States. He used the screen as, like, the topic of, like, defining who is doing this. And then the media was completely fucking petrified that the American public was going to fucking figure it out. And they were going to figure out that these are all Jews. And then so the MSM basically would just, like, they had nothing, they were completely at the mercy of whatever they wanted to bring up in Congress. And so they just, like, fucking crossed their fingers and would just, like, make as much noise as possible and just try to, like, la 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 and say Red Scare. And that's why you had a fucking Red Scare, because the fucking lid almost got blown on the shit back then. Okay? Well, it's definitely gonna get the fucking lid blown on it now, because it's so far beyond that and has fucking gone so out of control, and you have fucking riots in the United States that are killing people. And when people start dying, and there have been a lot of lives that have been lost already associated with these riots, but it hasn't gone into like fucking protracted warfare or anything like that, or fucking guerrilla, like, killings. When it does that, people aren't going to give a fuck anymore, and they're going to, like, try to figure out who the fuck this is, and they're going to fucking figure it out, because your paper trail is like a fucking, I mean, it's like a fucking football field scroll long of fucking, like, people that are signed onto this, that have created this situation, and that are, like, directly involved in the fucking NGOs. Now here's somebody telling me the neocons. So the neocon, the entire conception of neoconservatism is a fucking ploy to fucking capture and create a false spectrum divide to put you guys on two teams so that you fucking kill each other. That is what it's for. Neoconservatism, before that phrase got popular through like the latter era, was theorized and developed academically by a poli-science guy named Frank Meyer, okay, or Meyer, however you want to say it. Frank Meyer, he didn't call it neoconservatism. He called it Fusionism, like Fusion. Frank is obviously a Jewish man, and so are all the people associated with the creating the identity of like modern liberalism and leftism, which is just like liberalism used to be the name of the right, like if you went back in time, and then they just got switched because it makes you fucking idiots more confused. But all the people that are captivating these ideological movements that people are buying into are Jewish. The father of neoconservatism is Frank Meyer, and it was called Fusionism before you guys bought it and ate it like a cookie. Now you call it neoconservative, neocon, rhinos, you call it the right. Like, you are just taking something that is a fucking synthetic creation and then fucking bringing it into your house. You are bringing it in your home and you are feeding it to your children. And this is designed to destroy America. And it is making Americans kill fucking Americans and prepare their minds for the eventual like necessity of battle between Americans. And all of this has been introduced. None of it is fucking organic. And it is all accomplished because you want to go buy shit. And you don't care what has to happen as long as you can fucking have the convenience of like ordering shit to your door. But by doing so, you've given away the United States. This is what people need to realize, number one. And number two, they need to realize that this problem is much fucking larger than the traditional means that you would take to solve the problem. You're not going to be able to take the tools at hand of the state structure and then redirect it to this. Because they are fucking completely co-opted and corrupted and dependent on the very system that you're trying to fight. The only way that you're going to do this is by fucking opting out your energy from the economic system, and it would behoove you to do it in a nonviolent and brave sense, where you accept that like your violence, if you're starting to fucking like start a civil war, is just going to be turned against you, and you're going to have to rely on all the same control measures that are economic that got you in this fucking situation. The solution is to withdraw your energy in mass and fucking let the fucking thing collapse, and then fucking like look at the records of who did what and hold people accountable for exactly what they did. Don't hold somebody accountable if they're just a Jew, even if they fucking knew about it. Okay? If they knew about it and they're Jewish but they didn't do anything, then it's not their fucking, like, they don't need to fucking pay for it. The people that need to be responsible for whatever society dictates is the correct course of action for like dealing with this. That needs to be exactly the people who are signed on fucking paper that fucking did work and expended energy to make this shit happen. And you know, judgment is not in this world. It is already known that like the people in the United States are not going to let the shit go when they figure it out. And so they're going to want something. Well, I would recommend that you go nonviolent, that you go with full fucking transparency and public record, and that you fucking hold people that have done so exactly accountable, and do not fucking extend it to like an entire fucking group of people like the Jews. Now, having said that, do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. I believe that the United States is going to like fucking purge the Jews out of the United States. That's what I fucking believe. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that what the Jews have done is right either, because it's you know, it's even people that knew about it that didn't fucking say anything. It's, you know, it's not godly. You know what I mean? Like it's not a fucking reflection of God. It is dishonest. And you know, they're you know, like when people try to control the straw man argument and discussion of like who is responsible for this stuff, and then the Jews have to like feel like they have to protect themselves because they don't want to, you know, like they're gonna group together, because when you're threatened, you group together. You know, and that's true for anybody, but it's especially true for Jews. And that's why they're doing it. That's why they're not saying anything about it. But they should. They should say something about it. They should start talking about it now, so that we can create a situation and break the cycle, the historic cycle of the Jews being like in the middle of the fucking people that have taken them over, creating a false world government that is not anointed, is not consistent. They're trying to create, basically, the people that are doing this are not being proper Jews, and they are not waiting for the anointment by God to select the Mashiach and create like a world peace. They are creating a parallel model of that through worldly means, and along with it comes absolute destruction of humanity in every form, down to the fucking family unit where families are being destroyed. And like, I can't imagine any kind of creator that would look favorably upon that in terms of judgment. So I think that the correct action for the Jews is to acknowledge what's going on, and just be straight up and acknowledge like humans are going to understand. The Goyim are going to understand why, like, somebody wouldn't say something, and I don't think that's necessarily right, but like, we are all incredibly flawed, and we struggle every single day. And so the correct thing is to realize the error, and to like, I don't necessarily think that even whatever consequence comes is necessarily going to be at measure in terms of like the consequence. But the alternative is to not say anything and fucking bank on it, and like, I mean, you know where that's gonna go if you're a pious Jew, because you've read the fucking Tanakh, and so you know where that's gonna go, and that's probably where we're going. But nonetheless, I wanted to say that because I'm trying to face this whole thing in what I can deem as the most honest way possible, in order to like intermediate in what capacity I can with what I see with my sight that's been granted to me. And so that is like what I'm facilitating here. And if I didn't do it, it doesn't matter if like somebody killed me, if like some goy comes and fucking schwacks me, it doesn't fucking matter. All this stuff is gonna happen anyway. Okay? Like, I'm just fucking seeing fit to like bring this to the surface. Okay? That's all that I'm doing. I don't hate Jews. I love Jews. I don't hate goys. I love goys. Okay? I love you all. And all of you are here for a reason. And we're going to move closer to that reason here as time goes on. All right? Does anybody have any questions before I cut the stream? Here we go. Gunslinger says, "Hey, dude, and from my own research, what is the name of the Jewish guy that really came up with communism?" So the technical origin of communism is actually biblical, and that would have to do with concepts like jubilee and things like that, where like you have rotational, like harmonic intervals of time that are like where property is like redistributed, and that's the like foundational mechanical base of the concept of communism. The modern communism, as we think of it now, is and now I should also put in there, because that makes it sound like I'm saying Judaism is communism, and I'm not saying that. Judaism is also like the inverse of that. So like all your capitalist concepts and free market concepts and money are also from Judaism. Okay, so I'm not saying, I'm not, it's hard, it's really difficult to talk about this stuff, because anybody that watches it is going to see what and perceive what I'm saying by their own sight, whether that be accurate or extremely misguided. And so I'm trying to, like, it's going to be impossible for me to catch, and give fucking like McDonald's caution coffee is hot warnings on everything. But like, just because communism is a like a fucking concept from the Torah doesn't mean that, like, Judaism is communist. I'm not saying that. Okay. Now the origin of modern communism, as we think of it, is Jewish, and it is from and then we're talking like particular Jews here. We're not talking about like, it's just like one small little fucking piece of like the big ass picture. It had a greater effect in its dissemination into the nations. That is from Moses Hess, or the Jews call him Moshe Hess, He is very prominent, like modern era Jewish philosopher and Talmudic scholar from the end of the 1800s. And he has a book written in the like mid 1800s called Rome and Jerusalem. And his name is Moses Hester Moshe Hess, and he's very prominent. And he's got a street named after him in Israel called Moshe Hess Street. As do like most of your like prominent Jews that have affected the world in various ways, particularly like Zionism. They also have most of them have streets named after them. There's a Rothschild Boulevard, which is the Israeli equivalent of Wall Street. It's in Tel Aviv. Rothschild Boulevard. And that is not a judgment, right? I'm just saying exactly what has happened, right? Judgment's not here in this earth. You know that. What the goy thinks is what he thinks. You know, like they're gonna think whatever they think. But that is the origin of communism. Yeah, most of your origin Bolshevikis are Jewish. They're also funded by Jewish. The Schiff family had massive funding into Bolshevik, like the Bolshevik takeover of Russia. They're actually like one of them was fucking interdicted by the Canadian Navy and got like released by Colonel House, who's not really a colonel, but he's just like a bagman, like a Rothschild bagman basically, that was an advisor in the executive cabinet for the United States government. And he intervened on behalf of the United States against Canada, the Canadian Navy, to fucking release, let's see, who would that have been? I guess Lenin was in exile in what, like Switzerland, I think? Is that right? Or no, Lenin was in exile in Serbia, and it was either Trotsky or Lenin. It's probably Trotsky. I think Trotsky got interdicted by the Canadian Navy, like in its own record, because it's like a military record. Is that the name of the ship, Sam G? Is Army the name of the ship, the Canadian vessel? Oh. I'm sure you can find it. I haven't read it. I probably read it like 5 years ago, so I can't remember. But you can find it. I'm not familiar with Ehrenberg. What is she? Is that a female? I'm not talking about my dip anymore because I don't want to promote people to. If you want to dip, you should grow your own tobacco. It would be much more rewarding. All right. Any last questions? Because I'm going to wrap it up. I mean, 80. Okay, so somebody asked me about like prominence of the ADL. They're extremely prominent. They have a lot of influence, and like, you know, for now, and they're incredibly the ADL. The ADL is intertwined with like the NCRI. Then what the hell is it called? The fucking Contagion Network Contagion Research Institute in NCRI.io that is like doing most of the advisement on like Boogaloo, like the concept of Boogaloo, and informing law enforcement in the United States. And by the way, I can't find any of their fucking like they basically have no like, you know, reputation. It's a brand new fucking thing that just popped out of nowhere. It's a 501c3. They haven't even. They came out in 2018. They have no Form 990 available. They haven't made it publicly available. I'm gonna file with the IRS to get it. It's you know, they are like advising executive independent agencies and like really painting the concept of Boogaloo as like a terrorist threat that needs to be like killed, basically. And it would be very interesting. I'm going to dig into NCRI. I'd like to have an interview with Joel Finkelstein. He's probably going to fucking run like hell, but he shouldn't. He should, if he has merit to what his insight is, he should be happy to do a fucking interview unless he has something to hide. The NCRI is directly linked to both the UN and the ADL. And so, like, if you go to ncri.io and you go down, they're also related to the Koch brothers foundation. And so I'm guessing that the reason they have those logos on there is because I'm guessing that when I get their fucking 990 from the IRS, I'm going to see some United Nations Fund Foundation or affiliate foundation that is going to be sending them fucking money to do this. So the UN is behind it, and I'm going to find the Koch brothers behind it, and I'm going to find the ADL is going to be behind it. And that is not the only people the ADL are funding. And so, like, you know, people need to realize this and kind of realize, you know, like how serious the situation is, because we need to wake up people as fast as possible to begin to understand the nature of this network that is completely malfeasantly corroding the United States and causing it. Like, they're trying to get us to kill each other in a fucking synthesized conflict. And people in the United States need to realize this ASAP. Like, law enforcement needs to figure this out ASAP. Not to go you shouldn't fucking go like schwack these people. That is wrong. We need to realize it so they know not to listen. What you need to do is stop listening to people that we are listening to and realize the gravity of the situation and how important it is to not be fucking led by the pied piper. Because it's going to be to your doom and to the destruction of the United States. You can fucking rest assured. So if you're law enforcement or something watching this, look into the stuff that I'm talking about and disseminate this shit far and wide so that you can at least, if I'm, like, let's say I was completely wrong. I'm not. You're going to fucking spend 10 minutes looking at it and you're going to be like, holy shit. If I was wrong, the worst that could happen is that you could just like fucking pull back a little bit and just fucking take a second to get a breather and look around and see what's going on. Instead of being like second to second fucking emergency where you're like basically like pulling down your pants for the fucking federal government to tell you exactly what to do. It is the American people ultimately, that includes the people that are in law enforcement, that are responsible for fucking like safeguarding the United States from fucking like subversion and treason. And we are not doing a good job of that, but we need to start because we are extremely close. We are in the period of destabilization right now, historically. We are right before the period where people start getting shot, okay? And then after that comes the period where people go disappear, okay? So if you don't want to see that, you know, you might want to fucking like put some skin in the game here and like forget about your fucking 401k for a minute and just like, you know, realize that when you fucking die, you're not going to take any of your money with you. But if you let the shit go on and you know about it and you don't do anything to deal with it in a responsible, peaceful way that is orderly, then you are going to cause this entire thing to go into conflict, because that is exactly where it's planned to go, and that's exactly where we're headed. We are on a highway to motherfucking danger zone, and it's going to take people like jumping out of the fucking moving vehicle to like not end up in the fucking kill zone. All right. So that is the video that went a little longer than I intended. We're like just under an hour, but I thought it was significant to mention that stuff so that you guys could get some tools to be able to start researching and cracking this egg open on your own without any help. So like, you can bust out a spreadsheet, you can fucking go into these websites, you can fucking hound the IRS for any missing 990s that somebody hasn't published if they're like a new org that's less than 3 years old. You can fucking get all that stuff, okay? And you'll be able to see exactly what it is, and you'll sound a lot smarter when you're talking about, like, if you want to talk about like who funds Antifa, pull up fucking Alliance for Global Justice's Form 990 and go through there and look at their contributors. Those are, now there's more than Alliance for Global Justice. They're just, you have to find them, and they're not publicly released right now. Like, nobody's drawn a map of it. You can find it if you look through Form 990s. You'll be able to find it all. All right? Okay. have a great. You could probably even contact the IRS and demand all Form 990s, and then you could fucking get a group and look through all of them, and you'd find exactly all the fucking slush funds that aren't even that people don't even put on websites. They probably have 501c3s that like people don't even know about and don't have an online presence, and they're like super fucking secret, but they're still gonna file a Form 990. And I'll bet that there's a way, if you're like a big ass lawyer or something, I'll bet that there's a way that you can fucking get a copy of every single one that was filed. Because you better fucking believe that the IRS has that shit filed so they can pull the shit up. So they can, there's no reason that they wouldn't be able to pull every fucking Form 990 that came in the door and give it to you in a chronological order. Alright? Alright. Have a good night. I love you guys. Have fun.